सब्सक्राइब कीजिए हमारे चैनल डिफेसिस को और दबाइए बेल बटन को ताकि आपको मिल सके हमारी वीडियोस की अपडेट सबसे पहले।
Former Air Chief Marshal B.S. Dhanoa on Friday dismissed claims that the Rafale fighter jets inducted by the Indian Air Force this week had no chance against China's J-20 stealth fighter. The claims, made by an expert in Chinese Communist Party's tabloid Global Times, said that the Rafale was only superior to the Indian Air Force's Sukhoi 30 Mki jets but a generation below Chinese People Liberation Army J-20 fighter. It is only about one-fourth of a generation more advanced and does not yield a significant qualitative change, Zhang Xifeng, who was described by the Communist Party's propaganda website as a Chinese military expert, said. The website, quoting unnamed experts, claimed that Rafale is only a third-plus generation fighter jet, and does not stand much of a chance against a stealth, fourth-generation one like the J-20. Ex-Indian Air Force Chief Dhanoa, who has described the 4.5-generation Rafale fighter jets as a game-changer for the Indian Air Force, responded to the Chinese claim with two simple questions. If the J-20, also called the Mighty Dragon, is indeed a fifth-generation stealth fighter, then why does it have canards while genuine fifth-generation fighters such as the US F-22, F-35 and Russian fifth-generation Su-57 don't? Dhanoa asked. Canards are fuselage-mounted small, forward wings located forward of the main wing to improve aircraft control and contribute to lift. They are considered to present large angular surfaces that tend to reflect radar signals. I don't think J-20 is stealthy enough to be called a fifth-generation fighter as the canard increases the radar signature of the fighter and gives away its position to a long-range meteor missile that the Rafale has, he said. The other question the former Indian Air Force chief has for the Chinese is, why can't the J-20 supercruise if it is really a fifth-generation fighter as its manufacturer Chengdu Aerospace Corporation calls it? Supercruise is the ability of a fighter jet to fly at speeds above Mach 1, the speed of sound, without the use of afterburners, the additional combustion component used on some jet engines to increase thrust. The Rafale has the supercruiselity and its radar signature is comparable to the best of the fighters in the world, Dhanoa told Hindustan Times. Australian High Commissioner Barry O'Farrell on Friday hit back at Chinese Ambassador to India Sun Dong for objecting to his comments about China's destabilizing maneuvers in the South China Sea, and asserted that Beijing should refrain from actions that could unilaterally alter the status quo in the region. On Thursday, O'Farrell said Australia remains deeply concerned by Chinese actions in the South China Sea that are destabilizing and could provoke escalation. The resource-rich South China Sea is also an important shipping route. In a tweet, Sun took objection to the Australian diplomat's remarks and said they were made disregarding facts. O'Farrell, in his strong response, reminded the Chinese envoy about the verdict by the Permanent Court of Arbitration in The Hague in 2016 rejecting China's claim of sovereignty over the South China Sea region. Thank you. I would hope then you follow the 2016 South China Sea Arbitral Award, which is final and binding under international law, and also generally refrain from actions that unilaterally alter the status quo, the Australian High Commissioner tweeted. In its verdict, the International Tribunal, constituted under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, said that China had violated the sovereign rights of the Philippines by carrying out certain activities in the South China Sea. The Philippines had approached the tribunal arguing that China's territorial claims in the region is unlawful. China claims sovereignty over all of South China Sea, a huge source of hydrocarbons. However, several countries in the region including Vietnam, the Philippines, Taiwan and Brunei have competing claims. O'Farrell issued a statement on Thursday criticizing China over its border row with India in eastern Ladakh and its actions in South China Sea. On the 23rd of July, Australia lodged a note with the UN Secretary-General refuting China's unlawful maritime claims in the South China Sea, he said. It rejects China's claim to historic rights and internal waters, its assertion of certain maritime zones, and its contention there is wide international recognition of its South China Sea sovereignty claims, the High Commissioner added. In the last few weeks, China has increased its military assertiveness in South China Sea when the entire world is battling the coronavirus pandemic. Following Chinese actions, the US sent military ships near the disputed islands, and called Beijing's claim over the region illegal. The world will not allow Beijing to treat the South China Sea as its maritime empire. America stands with our Southeast Asian allies and partners in protecting their sovereign rights to offshore resources, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said on July 14. The government will make separate budgetary provisions for procuring only Indian-made defense items and will generate a negative list of weapons that can be imported as part of larger reforms to boost the economy in the post-COVID-19 world. Announcing a series of reforms for defense production, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said that the idea is to bring down India's large weapons import bill, and while certain high-technology systems will still be procured from abroad, emphasis will be on procuring locally made products. The minister said that the long-pending corporatization of the Ordnance Factory Board has been approved that will enable them to cut costs and overheads for more efficient operations. She also said that the Ordnance Factory Board factories could be listed in the markets in the near future to bring in transparency in their operations. The corporatization of OFBs has long been contested by staffers, but the Defense Ministry has gone ahead with the process, with a detailed roadmap for implementation ready. Sitharaman emphasized that this does not mean a privatization of the factories but is being done to improve performance. On imports, the minister said that while essential weapons not produced here will be sourced from abroad, a negative list will be generated and notified for which all imports will be banned. This list will be generated by the Department of Military Affairs and will have year-wise timelines to reduce import dependency. The government said that it would also move towards indigenization of spare parts for foreign systems that are already in service. Indian industry will be encouraged to produce spare parts locally for the consumption of the armed forces. The minister also announced the government's intention to speed up the procurement process by bringing in mechanisms to make realistic general staff qualitative requirements. These are the performance criteria set up by the forces to procuring new systems. The minister said that there have been cases when unrealistic general staff qualitative requirements have resulted in a lengthy search for weapons and often results in the selection of a single vendor that is against the rules. In a big move on Friday, the centre has amended the import policy of colour television sets from free to restricted. Amid the fascia off at the line of actual control, this step is another setback to Chinese trade in India. As per sources, this is likely to affect Chinese TV sales in the country to the tune of over $1 billion. The Directorate General of Foreign Trade shall separately issue the procedure for the grant of license. 20 army personnel mated in the violent clash with China at the line of actual control on June 15 led to national outrage. There have been growing calls for drastically altering the economic relationship with China in the wake of this dastardly incident. For instance, the Confederation of All India Traders has launched a nationwide campaign called Bharatiya Saman Hamara Abhiman to boycott Chinese products. The centre has already taken a number of steps against China in the pursuit of the Atmanirbhar Bharat, self-reliant India, goal. First, India's exit from the RCEP would protect Indian industry from cheap imports and help vulnerable sectors including farmers, dairy sector and MSMEs. In the recent union budget, the customs duty has been increased in 89 items such as footwear, toys, furniture and pressure vehicles to curb non-essential imports. Moreover, restrictions have been imposed on 13 items in the last year, which includes items imported from China. As per notification dated June 12, import of tires for bicycles, cars, motorcycles, buses and lorries were restricted. They can be imported only with a license from the Director General of Foreign Trade. Furthermore, FDI coming from China is allowed only through the government route. The average time taken by the Director General of Trade Remedies to initiate and complete anti-dumping investigations has come down to 33 and 234 days respectively. Additionally, the public procurement, Make in India, order was revised to ban the participation of foreign suppliers where the estimated value of the purchase is less than R$200 crore. The reciprocity clause was invoked against countries which discriminate and restrict Indian companies to participate in their procurements. Recently, the Information and Technology Ministry banned 47 apps which were variants or clones of the 59 Chinese-linked apps banned earlier. In the hype over Wednesday's arrival of the first lot of 5 French-built Rafale fighter aircraft, it was easy to lose sight of the indigenous light combat aircraft Tejas which, after years of development delays, is slowly entering squadron service. What has become of the order for the 83 Tejas Mark 1A variants that the Air Force was to place with the public sector? Hindustan Aeronautics Limited officials told India.in that the order is likely to be confirmed before December 2020. Earlier this year, after months of negotiations, Hindustan Aeronautics Limited and the Indian Air Force finally agreed on a price tag of Rs 39,000 crore for the 83 aircraft, 73 fighter jets and 10 two-seat trainer variants. Hindustan Aeronautics Limited officials attributed the delay to several outstanding issues, particularly a number of queries related to additional requirements through contract. All queries have now been answered and the case is under approval, a Hindustan Aeronautics Limited official said. The next phase in the contract would be approval by the Cabinet Committee on Security, India's topmost national security decision-making body. This will be followed by a formal inking of the contract between Hindustan Aeronautics Limited and the Indian Air Force. Delivery of the Mark 1S will start within 3 years of the contract being signed and will conclude with all aircraft delivered in 5 years. The Indian Air Force spent Rs 59,000 crore to buy the 36 Rafale fighter jets. While it greatly enhances the Indian Air Force combat potential and also contributes offsets, sourced from the Indian industry, to the tune of nearly Rs 30,000 crore, the indigenous Tejas will have a bigger force multiplier effect on an Indian industry reeling under the impact of the lockdown and economic downturn. More importantly, it is a huge step towards creating a multi-tiered defense industrial ecosystem. 5 major private sector players, Larsen & Toubro, VIM Technologies, Alpha Tokol, Tata Advanced Materials and Dynamatic Technologies are manufacturing the fuselages, wings, tail fins and rudders of the light combat aircrafts. These are being assembled by Hindustan Aeronautics Limited at its twin production lines in Bengaluru. With no sign of resolution, India is preparing to deploy an additional 35,000 troops along the China border. India also has an edge over China in eastern Ladakh as the newly deployed soldiers have already served in high altitude and cold conditions and are mentally prepared for tackling the adverse weather conditions and terrain. On the contrary, the Chinese troops deployed along the LAC are not used to high altitude extreme cold weather conditions as they have been brought from mainland China. According to ANI, the army is preparing to provide extreme cold weather portable cabins for the newly deployed troops in the eastern Ladakh sector. Our soldiers deployed there have already served in Siachen, eastern Ladakh or northeast and they are physically and mentally prepared for a longer deployment there, Army sources ANI. India and China have disengaged at 3 friction points including Patrolling Point 14. PP-15 and PP-17 and PP-17A, but at PP-17 and 17A, the Chinese have now maintained a small element of close to 50 troops and the remaining elements have returned to their permanent locations. The Indian Army is not bothered about the Chinese build-up along the LAC as it has got more than 2 additional divisions from outside Ladakh sector. It also has more troops compared to what the Chinese have deployed along the LAC. With winter approaching, the army already has a sizable stock of clothes and habitat for troops. Apart from this, it is currently in the process of placing orders for additional tents and shelters from local as well as foreign vendors. The snowfall is expected to start soon in the eastern Ladakh area where the temperature is already low.